Welcome back to Indiana at the voice of college football. And your Hoosiers are in the college football playoff. And the Old Oaken Bucket is back in Bloomington. And they didn't just win. They did not just win. They destroyed Purdue 66-0. I mean, that has to be the biggest bucket win in history for Indiana. I don't know for sure because they didn't show like a graphic of it that it was the biggest win in bucket history. But at the same time, what an impressive win by Indiana. And I think that leaves all doubt. No doubt about it, is Indiana going to be in the college football playoff? There's no way they're not getting in. I mean, they're already ranked at number 10 right now. And after this beatdown, after just complete destruction, Kurt Signetti being the antithesis of Tom Allen, where Tom Allen would get a lead in some games and he would kind of take his foot off the gas. Indiana, pound for pound, wire to wire, from the start of the game to the finish, just absolutely pounded Purdue, held no mercy. Absolutely no mercy. And I love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. And it was a big day of college football as well, because all we heard is that Indiana has beaten nobody. They've beaten nobody, and they don't deserve to be in the playoff. They're not a brand team. They're going to get destroyed by whoever, right? Well, you know what? College football this season has had so much chaos that even if you are a brand team and you're a great program, you cannot guarantee a win. My Alabama Crimson Tide have fallen in 2 games that they should have won, at Vanderbilt and at Oklahoma. So guess what? They go out there and beat Auburn today. I wasn't for sure they were going to win. I wasn't expecting that they were going to win because I just saw them get beat down in their last game. The Ohio State Buckeyes. Oh, we beat down Indiana. We're the best team in college football. We should have beat Oregon. Well, you know what just happened? The Michigan Wolverines knock off the Ohio State Buckeyes. Michigan beats the Buckeyes in Columbus. And guess who beat Michigan? Indiana. Indiana beat Michigan. So Indiana hasn't beaten anybody. They haven't beaten anybody at all. And all season long, I said if Michigan had a quarterback, Michigan would have been good. They would have been a good team if they had good quarterback play. They got a good defense. They got great players all across the board. But no, Michigan, they're no good at all. Indiana beat a terrible team. Yeah, well, if they're so bad, then why are they knocking off Ohio State again for the 4th straight season? I mean, I can't help it. It's hilarious. And the thing is probably Ohio State's going to stay ahead of Indiana in the rankings because, well, head-to-head. But Ohio State's got 2 losses. But you know what? That brand bias is big. It is what it is. But, I mean, I just think it's hilarious that after that went over Indiana, that I kept saying was a lot closer than the score would indicate. Indiana did hang with Ohio State, and there was a couple of really bad calls in that game. It definitely extended the lead. Just like we saw last night. Bad calls is why Georgia's still in the playoff right now. Georgia should not have beaten Georgia Tech. The refs have been atrocious this year. That's undeniable. Everybody can agree with that, whether it's in your team's favor or not. It doesn't matter, because obviously if and I wrote this on Twitter last night, I said, why do people, when it's their favorite team, overlook calls? Like, oh, that's not targeting. That's not a penalty against us. Well, yeah, it is. It still should go toward your team, whether you like that team or not. And your bias should not, get in the way of that. But for some people, their bias is just too strong, and they're just, as long as is favoring their team, they don't care. Georgia should have lost, though. Georgia should have lost to Georgia Tech, 110%. But they didn't call about 10 penalties that they should have called against Georgia, and they won. But still, we've seen so much chaos, and all of these teams are beatable. All of these teams are beatable. Every single team, even Oregon, who hasn't lost, Oregon is still beatable, right? They have barely beat Ohio State. That game could have gone either way, and they almost lost to Wisconsin. They're not unbeatable. But not only did we see Michigan knocking off Ohio State, we also saw Penn State beat Maryland. So now that means Penn State is going to play Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. And honestly, even though I'm a little bit sad by the fact that Indiana's not getting a chance to win the Big Ten in the Big Ten title game, I think it's still better for IU, though. I'm still kind of glad that they missed the Big Ten title game, because now they can't get that second loss. Like if they play Oregon and they lose, then people are going to say, oh, well, Indiana should be out. Well, now you don't have to worry about that. Indiana's in the playoff, no matter what. So you don't have to worry about that. So that's actually good. I see you're in chat, Will. Appreciate you for being here. And Notre Dame, they beat USC. It wasn't that pretty, But Notre Dame beat USC, gave up a lot of points. That's not a good look there, giving up 35 to USC. I mean, USC's been struggling to score all season, but a win's a win. Notre Dame's in the playoff. Big win for the Irish. Miami goes down. All season long, I said Miami were frauds. Miami was frauds all season long. They should have 4 or 5 losses. Miami's not great. They're not a great football team. They lost in the Dome. They lost in the Dome to Syracuse. So, they should be done, right? Well, if Indiana loses 2 games, they should be out of the playoff. Well, you know what? So should Miami. Miami's played nobody. That Florida win, you could keep saying it's aging well. You really think they beat Florida today? I don't think they beat Florida today. If they play Florida right now, I would not pick Miami to win. Miami should be out of the playoff. I don't care. They should be out of the playoff. Unless they win the ACC, which I think they're going to make the title game. I don't know how that's shaking out. I've not really paid attention to that. If you know, Will, definitely would appreciate if you let me know on that, because I don't know if Miami's going to make the ACC title game now. I'm not sure. Or if it's going to be SMU, Miami, or Clemson, SMU. I don't know how it's shaking out. But, okay, Clemson, SMU. There you go. Appreciate that, Will. Yeah, Miami should be done. Miami should not be in the college football playoff. And if they get in, that's some brand bias. That is some brand bias, because they're no good. They are no good. Their defense sucks. Like, you talk about Indiana, you talk about the fact that, they haven't played anybody. Well, the thing is that Indiana's defense and offense rank in the top 10. Does Miami's defense rank in the top 10? Their offense might rank in the top 10, but their defense is horrible. That's not a top 10 defense. It's not even a top 50 defense. Their defense is bad. It is a terrible defense. Miami should not be in the college football playoff. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Miami fans out there, but if they get in, that's some brand bias. They are not good. They are not a good football team. And Tennessee, I mean, again, like, they're going to make the playoff, but was that a really impressive win over Vandy? No, it wasn't. Not an impressive win over Vandy. SMU destroyed Cal. South Carolina beating Clemson. I mean, that's hilarious. I mean, honestly, I think that's actually helping a lot of teams out, too, that are on the fringe. Because Clemson's, should be done. Obviously, if they beat SMU, they're going to be in the playoff. I think it would be a better scenario for the at-large teams, like the ones on the bubble, if Clemson loses, right? If Clemson loses and SMU is the only team that gets in, that would be better, because then you have the scenario of if Clemson beats SMU, SMU could still maybe get in. Most likely they wouldn't, but I don't know. So it's just very interesting there. And then you look further down, Bama beat Auburn. So Bama's still alive. Bama is still alive for the college football playoff. That loss by Miami helps. Ohio State losing doesn't really do anything, but still, I mean, it moves them further down. I don't know. Alabama is still hanging in there. Clemson as well lost, so I think Bama will stay ahead of South Carolina. Some people are saying no, though. Some people are saying that Alabama's not going to stay ahead of South Carolina because South Carolina, getting a top 25 win over a Clemson team on the road, they should leapfrog Bama. But at the same time, I don't know about that, though, because of the fact that Bama has that head-to-head, and we heard all last season about how Texas beat Alabama. Texas should stay ahead of Bama, and they did in the rankings. So I think Bama should stay ahead of South Carolina. So if that's the case, Bama will be at number 11. And if there's no bid stealers, then Alabama's in. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. Bama's on the fringe. Do I think Bama should make the playoff? I've been on record all week saying I don't, even as a fan of the team. Love the Crimson Tide, but do not think they should be in the college football playoff. I don't. But with all this chaos going on, there is still a chance that they get in. But yeah, and all the other results do not really matter for the playoff. But just looking at all that landscape, Indiana took care of business. That's all you could say. I mean, I would have never have thought that Indiana would have won this game by this much. And I know that some people would be like, well, why? Indiana's been blowing everybody out. Purdue's trash. Do people remember that Purdue went out there and almost beat Illinois? I know Illinois is not a fantastic team, but I remember that game. And Purdue almost beat Michigan State. And, I mean, Purdue has had a couple of, I guess you would say, games where they had a pulse. And plus, Indiana's coming off that Ohio State game where they got shell-shocked and beat down, even though the game was a lot closer than the score would indicate. Just, you don't know, right? Indiana, there's also snow. It's a snowy day, too. Will that impact the passing game? I would not have expected this. I mean, maybe it's just, karma. You think it's just going to repeat itself, right? Of all the times Indiana has had success and then something happens, quarterback gets hurt or the team falls apart or just something like that. And, I mean, Purdue always beats Indiana. Indiana hasn't beat Purdue since 2019, and that was in double overtime. And Indiana had a much better team than Purdue that year, but they barely won. This was just an unreal performance by Indiana. And I'm so happy to see it. I'm so happy to see it. They put it on Twitter. The pride of Indiana, Hoosiers win. The old Oaken Bucket is back in Bloomington, I wrote, and the Hoosiers are going to the college football playoff. I mean, it's absolutely unreal. I never would have thought that I would have seen an Indiana football team that was this good. And when you look at the stats, Curtis Rourke, 23 of 31 for 349 yards, 6 touchdowns. If only Rourke did not miss those 1.5 games, the half against Nebraska and then the Washington game, and he had to have done a little bit better against Michigan and Ohio State if Indiana had been able to protect him a little bit better, I still think Rourke's in the Heisman conversation. Obviously, he's not going to have any chance. But, I mean, this type of game right here exemplifies season. He has been on the money. He's been playing great. He should get drafted. He showcased his entire versatility in his bag today. His mobility of being able to get out of the pocket, throwing on, running to his left, running to the right, down the field throws, short throws, intermediate throws, everything in his arsenal, Rourke showed today. Indiana ran the ball well. All the running backs got in on the action. And Elijah Surratt showcasing why he should be a draft pick. He bounced back after having some tough drops last few games, played great. And then the defense. What more can you say about the defense? Forcing multiple turnovers on Purdue. Purdue had like 4 turnovers, maybe 5. It was either 4 or 5 in the game. 2 picks and then a couple fumbles. I mean, Devin Mockabee is a good back. Devin Mockabee is a good back for Purdue, and he only had 21 rushing yards. You always felt bad for the guy because he couldn't get anything going. And then Purdue combined had 54 passing yards. And what's unreal is that Michigan only had 62 passing yards against Ohio State today, and they won, which is unbelievable. But yeah, Indiana should be in the playoff. Absolutely. They should be in the playoff. There's no doubt about it. The commentators, were kind of joking around. They're like, well, nobody's officially in yet until the CFP, voters put them in. It's done. It's over. Indiana, there's no more argument. There's no more debate. An 11-1 IU with their own 1 loss at Ohio State. When all these other teams, including Georgia, have had beat-down losses too and losses to inferior teams as well, the argument's over. But what a great day of college football. I mean, a lot of great games. You can't beat it every Saturday. Despite refs being terrible, it is what it is. But just a fun weekend of college football. I mean, Michigan beating Ohio State, again, just kind of exemplifies everything that college football is about right there. I mean, Ohio State favored by 24 points. Nobody's expecting Michigan to have any shot, even though they've beaten them the last 3 years. New coach, new players, their team's nowhere near as good. They go into Columbus, and they beat Ohio State again. After all week, Ohio State was on a high after destroying Indiana, making Indiana look bad, saying they didn't belong, all that kind of stuff. And then Indiana, who beat Michigan, they beat Ohio State. It's hilarious. I mean, that's why that whole transitive property thing just doesn't work. People be like, well, this team's better than this team. This team's better than that team. Well, again, you could do the transitive property all the way to say that Georgia State's better than Bama and Georgia because of Georgia State beat Vandy, and Vandy beat Bama, and Bama beat Georgia. I mean, you could do that. You can do it all day. It doesn't work, right? Ohio State is a better football team than Michigan and Indiana. We know this. But Ohio State played better against Indiana. Against Michigan, they sucked today. They were horrible. Will Howard was terrible. And I agree with you, Will. The meltdown from Ohio State fans is hilarious. The Fire Ron Day talks are back. The Fire Ron Day talks are back. You knew it was going to happen. I got Darrell MVP saying congrats on making the playoffs. Appreciate it, Darrell. Penelope Roberto says Michigan has a top 5 defense and a top 136 offense. Yeah, they do. Their offense is non-existent, but their defense is good, and they ran the ball just enough to win that game. It's crazy. Ohio State's only going to move down to 6 or 7, and I just disagree. I think they should move down to like 8 or 9, but of course they're not. It's Ohio State. They're not going to move down further than that, even though they lost to a 7-5 Michigan team. It is what it is. Indiana's only loss is to a 10-2 team, but Ohio State has 2 losses, and one of them's to a 7-5 team. But, you know what? They should still be higher. Brand bias. It's a joke. It's a joke, but it is what it is. Will said, hey, Jerry, I wonder why he didn't pick up. Congrats. Yeah, sorry, I've been busy all day, but I definitely did not intentionally not miss that. Definitely appreciate it. Will, can't wait to talk to you. It's a lot of big results. Can't wait to discuss it for sure. Jackson said the Hoosiers basically close the playoff berth tonight. No doubt about it. We had Jeff here as well saying, I'm here tonight, 11-1 Indiana. So proud of the Hoosiers. Me too. Oh, I appreciate it, Will. But yeah, I'm just so excited. I never would have thought that I would have lived long enough. And I know I'm not old, but I never would have thought I would have lived long enough to see this from Indiana. I mean, Indiana is just the perennial loser. That's why I started watching them, man. And just they lose and they lose. Watching Indiana basketball, they used to be good. They're no good now. And Indiana football is just perennial losers. I don't know. I just always felt bad for this program. And now they got a coach. And people said, oh, well, Indiana's trash. Indiana's trash. Oh, they're going to lose Signetti. He's gone. Well, you know what? All that didn't happen. Signetti's staying. He's going to build this program. And I hope he stays for a long time. I think he will. I mean, he's making top 15 money in college football. I mean, yeah, you go to Florida and make a little more. But, you know, it's just Indiana just – this is a program that is committed to football now. They want to win. And they should have done this a long time ago. They should have done this 30, 40, 50, 70 years ago, 100 years ago. They never did. They're finally committing to football, though, and it's paying dividends. You're seeing it in the fans. You're seeing it all over the country. People are recognizing Indiana football. People are. Indiana has a football team, and now they're better than the basketball team, which is crazy. I would never thought that. Will says, was the game canceled in 2020? It was, Will, because Indiana would have probably won that year. Most likely, but yeah, I got canceled because of the pandemic. Unfortunately, I think Purdue had issues going on that they were the ones that couldn't play the game. Unfortunately, they didn't reschedule it, but yeah, Indiana's last win in the series was 2019. The last 3 years have been bad. Indiana was competitive in all 3 games, but Purdue really wasn't that good either. Not the one game. I think the last year of Jeff Braun they got destroyed, but the last couple years have been closer. But yeah, Indiana 66-0. Just so happy to see it. I'm so happy and proud of the Hoosiers that they're going to be in the college football playoff. And with all this chaos going on, maybe Indiana can still get a home game. Maybe they can still get a home game. I would love to see that. I would love to see them get a home game in the playoffs. Probably not. That's a dream. But with all the chaos, you never know. Maybe an SMU law, maybe some of these teams, you never know. Just teams ahead of them. We'll see. Maybe Indiana can get that home playoff game. That'd be great. But regardless, even if they don't, so happy for the Hoosiers. Your Hoosiers are in the college football playoff. They're 11-1, best season in program history, and hopefully a lot of success to come in the future with Curt Cignetti. Like he said after the game, we're not done yet. We're not satisfied. We want more. We want to win. Sorry about that. My internet cut out a bit there, but a lot of teams have gone down. A lot of the traditional powers, Georgia, Bama, a lot of these teams are losing. So there is a shot for Indiana. If there's any year it's going to happen where they can somehow make the title game, this you would think would be the year for Indiana. But regardless, even if they don't get that far, it's just been a great season for Indiana, one that I will never forget and hope that it can continue to happen in the future. Yeah, Jeff said they even wanted the snow and cold. Absolutely. Appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, whether you're on the Big Ten channel or the Indiana channel. Definitely appreciate it if you guys leave a subscribe, and appreciate if you like down below and share it out on social media. Let people know that we're here talking about the Hoosiers every single Tuesday night at 7 o'clock and after every single game as well. It's been a remarkable season. I've been very happy to cover the Indiana Hoosiers all football season long. Their best season in program history, and they're not even done yet. And it's all thanks to Curt Cignetti. Thanks for being here, everybody. Go Hoosiers. You got the bucket back. You're 11-1, and you're going to be making the college football playoff. Thanks for being here, everybody. Go